All right, welcome everybody to another live stream. And yeah, this is one of those special days, I guess you could say, where everybody is talking about the date. And today is 2 22 2022, which is like a like a palindrome, uh like it's just that's what it is essentially. I've always thought that those were interesting. I never really would recognize them when they would happen until somebody mentioned it. But this year, I've been like more paying attention to it because I find those things fascinating. They seem like there's a yeah, not that they necessarily mean anything. It's just cool how there's kind of like this circular, or this kind of there seems to be like this a feeling of like balance, I guess you could say, in the world, in these small, sometimes like very insignificant things. So that's really fun. I guess you could say. uh yeah. So I didn't really have much that I wanted to talk about today, but I did want to, yeah, in a way, if you watched the other two live streams, you've seen that like the lighting was really weird, and I'm still working with that. And as you can see, it's different today. I tried to do something different, but I do want to like work on that. I mean, heck, I'm a filmmaker. I should be able to come up with something. I mean, that I should be able to do that. So, maybe in future streams I'll have a crafted, more of a crafted look, of what these streams are supposed to be. And then also like with the audio, which has been very, very frustrating. Last week, I did a 2-hour stream, and that I was so excited about doing that, and then I realized that the mic that I was using was not picking up my voice. And so there are points where you can't hear what I'm saying, and then there are other, it just kind of goes in and out, and it was so frustrating to have that. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So I got it at, well, I got the interruption out of the way early. I got my kid walking in here, asking for something, and yep. I guess it happens to every YouTuber, every person who's like, online, uh trying to do something live, especially if you have, like a family. Just things happen. What are you gonna do? You just gotta keep rolling with it. So yeah, this one, you guys should be able to hear me. I should be like, I looking at the picture. I'm well lit. Uh, Not in that kind of way, but in the, you can see me. There's, the camera is exposing my face and the room pretty well. So that's good. Like every week is a chance to get something uh better every single time I do it. And that's kind of like how you learn. You gotta try it, you gotta fail. There's a lot of failure that happens, there's a lot of trying things, and then yeah, eventually you get to a point where you look back and you realize like, wow, I've actually made some progress. Um I've done this enough that I understand like what works and what doesn't work, and why things work and yeah, and don't work. And to look back at your early stuff and just cringe at the fact that it was so bad. So uh, I think I'm, uh, right now, at least with the streams, I'm at that moment where I can look back at these and think, wow, that was rough. Those were the rough ones. But hopefully not for too long. I've only been doing this for about 3 weeks, and so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And like I said, every week it's just gonna get better and better and better. the more I kind of work on it, the more I try to make it look better and sound better. Excuse me. So one thing I did see before going live today was that the Academy of Motion Picture Sciences. I know I'm missing a word in there. Anyway, the Academy Awards. They just announced that they're going to have some of the awards, like some of the most technical awards, be presented before the show. So it's not going to be televised. It's going to be, those people who were nominated show up. They go. I don't know how much pageantry is going to be involved. I'm sure as as the big stars, so to speak, the big stars are showing up on the red carpet and being interviewed. That's probably when they're going to be giving these awards out, and that means that all of that work, all of that recognition, that if they were televising those awards, in a way, it kind of like it takes that credit away. It makes it so that the people, like, a lot of what this industry is obviously doing good work, but you're also looking for your next job. You're constantly looking for your next job, and so if you have won an Academy Award and it's done in shadow, then what good is that? I mean, like, it's supposed to be there for your peers to recognize your accomplishments, and if it's not going to be televised, then that means that the general public won't know about it. Won't as funny as it may seem, like, sometimes, like, you watch these awards, but you're not supposed to necessarily want to be, the best actor or the best director or the, have the best picture, which, I mean, you do, but in terms of, like, the jobs, like, you're just, so some people will watch the Academy Awards and they'll see, the special effects artists, and receiving their award, and say to themselves, "Oh, I want to do that." Like, one, as much as I kind of, like, rail against the idea of seeing yourself, sometimes you do, like, you look at, like, if you have the special effects group walk up there and you look at them and you're like, those are my kind of people. Like, I want to be part of that crew. I want to do what they do, and in a way, they're rock stars within that, within that world, within that group, and it allows for the audience to see them, and to, like, to put a face to the name. Maybe even, like, when it comes to, like, their next, the next thing that they do, that name might be recognized, and like, oh, I remember them. They got the Academy Award for doing the visual effects on this, like on this other movie, and that I really loved. I'm gonna go see it now because I really loved what that team did. Case in point, like the Weta Workshop, with Peter Jackson. Every single time I would see their name on a project, I knew that like, if everything else sucked, if the movie was terrible, if the plot didn't make sense, if the actors were garbage, I could at least rely on the fact that the special effects would be freaking awesome. And I think that's kind of what we're losing with this, not televising some of these awards. I understand why too. Like, that's the other part of it, is that there have been complaints for decades about how these shows run 2 or 3 hours. And I don't want to say it's the fault of the show. I want to say it's the fault of, yeah, giving time to like the advertisers, allowing time for certain segments of the show. It's not always about the awards. Like sometimes it's about everything else around giving the awards out. And the whole pageantry, the pageantry around it. Um, but then on the other hand, it's like I think the reason why people stopped watching was not necessarily about the runtime. Uh, I mean, it can be difficult to watch a 3 hour award show, uh, but it gets even more difficult when it's not entertaining. And I think that's why people were complaining in the first place, was that like if you had a good host who was like a prime like entertainer, or if you had some bits in there that were like really funny, uh it wouldn't matter if it was 3 hours. You would watch that thing and it would feel like like no time had flown by at all. But as more and more people who were receiving awards were using that as a platform to kind of talk about stuff, I don't want to say it's a bad thing either, because like I know that the Academy Awards at one point was a place where you could really get your message out there, and then all the papers and all the media would be focusing on that moment. They would replay the clips over and over and over again. People would talk about it, and so it was a perfect place to uh, talk about a message, or talk about something that was important to that person. But I think it also turned off the audience too, because they were like, "Oh no, they're gonna talk about some cause. They're gonna, they're gonna make us feel like guilty about not doing this or that or the other thing," and then it just became like this, like guilt porn, I guess you could say. It's just like, oh, we're gonna watch the Academy Awards so I can feel like worse about myself. Yeah, like worse that I'm not, like the like saving the whales, or whatever cause that would that that an actor or somebody would want to put up for display. But I don't know. I'm conflicted, because I think, yeah, on the one hand, I do think that you could have a show that still has all of these different categories, uh, and still make it. You can still make it interesting. You can still make it fun, um, and in a way, I think it's a bit of a lack of imagination to not do that with like almost every award. Or they seem to have fun at a certain point, like especially in the 90s. It felt like they were having a lot of fun, with the Oscars. When Billy Crystal was hosting, he always had a segment, especially at the beginning, where he would green screen himself the into the movies that were nominated that year, and that was always fun. He always had like an opening song. He always had like quips and things ready in between. The awards. You just, but it was all kind of like this. Like it wasn't made in this like yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? It 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 wasn't malicious. It was like it was him roasting people, and it was understood that he was roasting people, and everybody was having fun. And now it just, there isn't a sense that people are having fun. It seems like they're kind of like it's gotten to the point of being desperate for people to tune in, and so they're kind of trying to do things that are very weird. And um like last year, I think they had like Glenn Close do like the whole like twerking thing, and that was kind of weird. And they were it was a smaller uh, show because of COVID, but uh, they had it just seemed like the things that they were like focusing on, it didn't seem like they were having fun. They were like they were just trying to do something that was always about like some kind of like cause or message, or we got to make Hollywood better, so we got to talk about it, like inclusivity and the pay gap and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, those things are there and they need to change, but this is an award show, so let's have fun. Let's just kind of peel that back a bit, because you have the rest of the year to talk about it. Your next project can be all about that. But it's an award show. People are watching. Let's have some fun. Let's poke fun at each other. Let's just relax. And I get that, there's a lot riding on it. So much has been wrapped up in the Academy Awards, that you know your film, if it wins, could like uh it could get more box office. It's in like when it comes to streaming, or like even still selling on like Blu-ray. Just to be able to put that stamp on there that like this was an Academy Award winning film. Like you get to put that in all your marketing. You get to like it's this like prestige that you get to carry with you, practically for the rest of your life. Like you can say, I won an Academy Award. I mean, there's still like actors who, they're in a new film and they can still claim Academy Award winning, or even a Academy Award nominated. Like all of that, they can carry with them for the rest of their career. And it doesn't matter if it was like an award that they won 20 years ago or they won like last year. Like they can still use that as marketing. It's still a point of being able to use that, um, to possibly get your next job, to ask for more money. All of that stuff is wrapped up in this award, and so there's a lot riding on it. So I get that, especially when it comes to the people who are nominated, that trying to get them to have a little bit of fun might not be the best thing in the world, because of the fact that they're nervous. There's a lot riding on it. They don't like they're focused on when their category is up, hearing their name called for, like amongst all the nominations, and then whether or not they win or not. And that's kind of like that. That's like their entire evening practically. It's like don't ask them to do anything else besides show up, sit there, and then find out if they won or didn't win, and then give a speech or not. I mean, yeah, like once it's all done, there are parties. Like there's a bunch of parties afterwards, and that's where, I'm sure, like they do the pageantry. They kind of say, okay, we got to do this for the cameras. We got to look proper and all that kind of stuff. But then once the cameras are off and they're able to go to the parties, with all their friends, all the pressure is kind of like subsided, or their excitement has grown because they won, and now they're like, yay, I get to go to a party, I get to like have drinks and finally have dinner and be around friends, and possibly have to be on set the next morning, but who cares. um yeah, so like there's so much writing on it, uh but it sucks that, um because of because of what they're not doing, they are, uh it seems like they're penalizing the smaller parts of their group. Like one of the categories is like, like the like composition, like scores, like like composers. There's like foreign short film. There's editing. It's like, okay, they're not as exciting. Like, well, with composers, it's like, if it's like John Williams, who's being nominated, okay, it makes it a bit more exciting. But then on the other hand, you're like, well, it's just gonna go to John Williams because he's just that awesome. But yeah, I don't know exactly what the answer is, and I think I see a time when maybe the awards aren't going to be televised at all anymore, because of the fact that just over the years it's gone, just the quality has gone down. Um, it seems like everybody there is not having as much fun as they should. And in a way, it's kind of like, if if it's like people who like the everyday Joe is watching it, they it ends up being one of those things where you're like, oh well, they're just patting each other on the back for doing their job. Like, I don't get patted on my back for doing a job. Like, I don't get some kind of award for doing a job. Like, and I work, just as hard, if not harder, than they do. I being inside the industry, I know that, like, everybody who works on a set, they're working their asses off. They're working, like, 16 hours, like, to possibly 20 hours sometimes. I mean, it's not right, but it happens, and like, everybody's focusing their like all their energy and their attention on, making this film for a very short amount of time. So it's like everybody's working really hard, and then they either move on to the next thing, or they take a break. I mean, usually these crews are just moving from one shoot to the other, and so there's not much of a break, because they got to keep going. If work's there, then you're gonna do it. Um, but yeah, they don't do a great job, of letting the everyday Joe, like, have a look behind the curtain of, how grueling it is, how much, like, it actually takes to make a film. They would rather kind of promote, all the glamour, and you kind of only hear about, like, all the, just all like all the extra stuff. We're just like, oh yeah, like, actors are sitting in their trailers waiting to, come on to come on set for a certain, amount of time, and then they go back to their trailer and they hang out. It's like, for the everyday Joe, they're like, oh wow, I wish I could do that, but no, I gotta work. I have to work like two or three jobs, just to, yeah, make, like ends meet. Um, and so, like, the relatability is kind of low right now, and on the fact that, like, there's so, I don't want to blame it on on like scandals and stuff like that, because, like, that's something that I think has, people have always, kind of suspected was happening anyway. But like the everyday person really, I don't think, cares that much about it. What they care about is, like, if I go to see a movie, I want it to be good. That's it. I just want to see a good movie. Can we do that? Can we do that without, like, forcing some kind of, like, message, down my throat, or by giving me characters that are inconsistent because of said message? I don't want to say it's like all the time, um, and it seems to be only in a very particular part of, uh like 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 entertainment. But for the most part, it's like, the what if the audience is walking away, it means that there's something that we're doing as an industry that's not lining up with what the like what with what the audience wants, essentially. And I don't know how to reverse that. I don't know if we can. I think it might have to be, like a generation or two where um things are kind of corrected. Stuff that's released seems to be better, seems to be more entertaining. Like even if it's uh yeah, something that's kind of like depressing or something like that. Like you can still make that you can still tell that story, have it be entertaining, and the audience will love you for it because it was still entertaining even though it was sad. Because you fulfilled something that a human being needs, which is this chance to have a catharsis, or this chance to have like some kind of empathy with a character that is like so much different than they are, but they see the humanity in them. Um, there's so much that uh, needs to happen to kind of turn things around, and a part of it I have to say is just the fact that like media is so fragmented right now. So not everybody is having that collective experience of being able to watch something. Like I was listening to a stream about um, how like the Super Bowl is still like the one event that like most people watch. Like everybody shows up at the exact same time to watch it, and we have a collective experience. Even though if we're even though like we're not in the same room, obviously, but we're all watching it for any number of reasons. We're either watching it for the commercials, or we're watching it for the halftime show, or we're watching it for the game, or so that we're rooting for whichever team to win. And that's true. That's like a thought that I've that I've had on my mind for a while is that um, I think we're losing that collective experience, and so that in itself makes it really difficult to talk to people because not everybody is showing up to watch the same stuff. Uh, I mean, there are some shows that and some movies that people are showing up to watch, uh but especially when it comes to the like the Academy Awards, like there's always been this disconnect of, well, why were these movies nominated when nobody actually saw them? And that problem is a bit worse now because we have so many streaming sites, and so there are movies that were nominated, and yeah, it was each studio kind of throws in their picks for nominee, and then they get chosen, and like so on and so forth. uh but not everybody has seen them. Not everybody has like all the streaming sites. So I like for me, I don't have Apple TV, and there are a couple of films that are nominated that are on Apple TV, and there's a part of me that wants to sign up for it because, like, I mean, you could still go on Apple TV and you can look at what's on there. Like, it's not a completely closed site. Uh, and I was watching some of the trailers for, like, for some of the shows that are coming up, or that some shows that have been out for a while, and I started to think, I was like, should I sign up for this too? Because there's some looks like some pretty good stuff that's here. Um, and it doesn't seem to be that expensive, but I don't want another streaming site. Like I already have plenty. And so I have to play that game of like, does like, is it reasonable for me to sign up for this? And you like, you may be watching this and saying, hey, just sign up, watch what you want for like a week, and then like just like cancel it. And it's like, yeah, I could do it, but I'm also I'm kind of lazy about it too. Like once I sign up for something, I kind of just want to. I'm like, I signed up for it for a reason. I'm not gonna unsubscribe from it just because I'm trying to like save a quick buck or something. Well, not a quick buck, but it's like if I'm gonna sign up for something, there's a reason for it, and I usually am pretty like loyal and I'll stick around for a while. Um, Both because of the fact that like there's a reason why I signed up, and because there I'm kind of lazy about it too. So yeah, but because of that, I don't actually like I won't be able to watch like some of these things that I've wanted to watch. Um and it's kind of my MO anyway, because of the fact that you know I haven't been great about watching current films. Like I kind of like have been falling behind for a very very long time. And every year I say to myself, this is the year that I'm gonna see all of the nominations. Like I'm gonna do it this time, and then when I'm watching the Academy Awards, I will have a true opinion about what should win, instead of like who I would like to win, which is usually the case. Where I'm like, well, I don't I don't exactly know, like how good the movie is, but I really like that person, so I would really like for them to win. Or, if like an actor who should win because they didn't win, last year or the year before, and it's just like, well, come on, you have to give them an Oscar eventually. Like, just give them the Oscar this year and just call it a day. But yeah, I don't know, guys. Let's see. But that's what yeah, I mean, kind of thinking about in terms of like the Oscars, because I think as much as I want us to go back to a time when it was really exciting to watch the Oscars and it was fun. I really want to get back to that point in time. I don't know if we can, and it's not necessarily because of the reasons I said. I think it's just the combination of all of those things. I think just overall people are just not interested in tuning in to watch an award show, because they're just like, I don't care. I have better things to do. And this past 2 years kind of unraveled a lot of that, because of the fact that um, so much of what we are seeing now is that a lot of actors, a lot of creative people don't have PR. Uh, they don't have like a person to run PR for them, and so they are allowed to go on Twitter. As much as I hate the fact that Twitter is the place where we kind of like get everything now, or that we get like that we have conversations or yell at each other, or like reveal news. I I don't really like that idea at all. I think it's actually quite stupid and is really regressive. But I get the urgency of the site. I get the fact that like you can, if you have some kind of big news, that you could put it out there and it can go out into the world very very quickly. But with that, it's like it also allows for people to um, kind of put their opinions out there, or to start fights, or to um, just be terrible people sometimes. And um, it's not that I necessarily think that that people are trying to be like terrible people. I think in some ways they're really just stressed out, and so they go on Twitter and they're like, okay, people are not liking what I made, and and I suspect that it's like that something else is going on. It's not that it's the quality of what I made, but it's that there are some other forces involved. Um, but they go out there and they start to just start crap and start to really antagonize the people who are trying to help them, and then you start turning people off to the whole idea of watching what you made. uh, and to be fair, maybe it's some kind of tactic that they use to to actually draw attention to it. It's like there's so much media out there, there's so much to watch, that if you're able to have people, you know like if you get something trending, then that gets people interested, and then they want to watch the show or the movie or whatever. But I think there's also this backlash too, where if you're gonna turn people off from what it is you're making, then that's also a really stupid thing to do, because essentially you want everybody to watch what you make. Um, they may not like it, they may not get what you're trying to do, but you do want people to watch. You do want people to be open to whatever it is you're making, um, and to antagonize them before they even get a chance to even like discover like what it is you've made. That's really bad, and that fragments your audience even more. Uh, I'm no expert on marketing. I'm no expert on um, you know social media in any sense of the word, or in any sense of, well, whatever it is, in the media online space. um I just know, like, from what I like and don't like, or from what I suspect you would want to do, is that you would want to not talk down to your audience, but you want to actually have a conversation with them. And if they don't like something, say, okay, well, why don't you like it? Or, oh, you don't like it, but you've only seen the trailer. Well, give it a chance anyway. Like, a trailer is just a trailer. The entire thing is, there's more to it. Just give it a chance. Like, just approaching just the situation as, not as like you're not being attacked, but that people are asking questions because they are interested, they are concerned, they are, you know fill in the blank. Even if they are trying to, like if they are trying to antagonize you, you can still disarm that, those reactions too. you know it's like I see how it's easy to kind of get pulled into, like, oh, so and so said something about me, and oh, they don't have an avatar, and they have this weird, like, handle, but oh, why, why are they saying this about me and the thing I made? And it's like, well, welcome to the internet. And uh yeah, I don't know what to tell you. But they so some people really have gotten into the habit of just, uh like, despising the people that they need to, you know pay for the thing that they're making. And like I said, I'm no expert, but I'm still learning, how to engage oh, I got a stutter. The stutter comes up every once in a while. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me, because you want the audience um to be there to kind of grow that relationship. And I'm learning how to engage my own audience. I'm learning how, just to live in this space, and how to, like, talk about the things that like that I'm making. Because, like that's one of the things that I need help with, is being able to have like PR and have to be able to talk about the, like, the things that I'm working on. And it's like it's it's always been like pretty tough for me to do that, um like with pitching a project. uh there's some filmmakers that I know that, like, they're never gonna pitch a project ever in their life, because they've kind of they've they've built their space where they make films, and they make them, and they have a group of people that help them make their films. And then they just they they make it, they put it out there, they make another one, and they never have to really pitch to a studio, because essentially they are the studio. They're making the stuff they want to make, and they're making it on their terms, and so they never have to, like, go beg for money, or go beg a studio, like, oh, look, here's my movie, it's about this and this, please make it. uh I mean, I'm sure at a certain time, like, if a studio came knocking, that they would have no trouble, um going in and like pitching some ideas. um but at the moment they don't need to do that. But being able to pitch an idea has been uh, a part of the process that I've dreaded for a very long time. And but it's a part that I know I could get good at if I practice enough. And that's really, it's like it's trying to convince somebody why your idea is good, and why it should get made. Why is it the right time to make it? Which is, like, I hate that question, like, to the core of my soul. I'm like, why does it need to be made now? Well, I mean, by the time it's made, it's not going to be now. It's going to be in the future, and the future is going to be completely different. So why are you asking me why it needs to be made now? Because it needs to be made now, because it's about humanity. I don't know what else to tell you. It's about humanity and the experience of being a human being. That's all I got. So I just there's certain roadblocks that are thrown up, that it's like, I guess in a way they want to make sure that you have thought about these things, but the questions in general are just like, ah, I don't know what to tell you. I'm a filmmaker. I want to make films. That's why it needs to be made now, because this is the script that I got, that is the most complete, that I've done some drafts on. I feel like it's ready to go into production. That's why it needs to be made now, because it's ready to go into production. Um, so yeah, I just I've it's these kind of like these gatekeeping roadblock kind of like questions on every application, where I'm just like, this seems like a waste of time, because it's so much extra work, when I could be spending my time getting a crew together, getting some finances, trying to like find locations, get casting together. But I understand it too. Like, if you're able to put together a good pitch, and you've convinced the people who have the money why it needs to be made now, and why you're the person to do it, and all this kind of stuff, then the floodgates open, and you're able to make it. Or they'll give you, if you're doing that for like for a grant, or for like some kind of fellowship, um, it opens the doors to push that project forward just a little bit. But it also seems like, sometimes it just seems like a racket, where it's just like, it doesn't matter what I say. because you're looking for a particular kind of person at this point in time. You're looking for a particular kind of idea at this point in time. You're looking for a particular, um, just whatever at this point in time. And I don't even have to go through the application. I know that I don't fit that. I know that no matter how perfect my pitch is going to be, no matter how um how flawless my delivery and my my answers are, that it doesn't really matter because you're not looking for it now. And that's been the case ever since the writers have had to pitch, for ever since filmmakers have had to pitch. It all depends on what the studio thinks they can make money off of, or what is the current trend. And it happens all the time. And you never want to chase any trend. Like, if anything, if there's something that you want to write about, if there's something that you want to make a movie about, um, one, just go make it. Go make the film. Don't wait for anybody to say, to like give you that kind of permission, because you'll never get it. And I got to remind this, like I have to remind myself constantly about this, is that um, nobody's gonna hand it off to me. Nobody's gonna pluck me out of obscurity and say, "Hey, Tim, you're the guy. Yeah, you got the hat, you got the beard, you look like a director. Yeah, you can direct films." It's just not gonna happen. I have to prove it. I have to show what I can do, and it's tough. But it is possible. Like, you don't have to have a big budget. You don't have to have a lot of actors. You don't have to have a lot of like locations, but you do have to have a really tight story. You have to have characters that are compelling. You have to have a scenario that um, is interesting, and you're not quite sure like what's gonna happen, uh, but you're intrigued because you want to find out. You want to be on this journey with these characters to find out where it all like where it all ends up. And that's freeing in a way. It's like if you got the time, if you got a little bit of resources, then you can make that happen. And I have to remind myself constantly that, like, I don't need to wait around. And don't I don't like the fact that a lot of times I do wait around, because I'm like, well, I stuff has to be lined up. Like, there has to be, like, when this happens, then I can do this, and then when that happens, I can do this, and then just I'm always in this kind of like waiting game, or like it feels like I'm just like on the sidelines, just like, okay, once time is right, that's when I get to do this, and when the time's right, I get to do this other thing. And it's not about that. It's about generating, uh, whatever story is inside you, whatever compels you to create, and that can be a starting point, because eventually, when you're successful, when you're finally in the industry, you're going to get a lot of stuff that you don't want to do, or that you don't think that you're right for, or that you feel pressure that you should take, because it's a great opportunity. um, and I haven't been in that situation yet, and I don't know exactly what it is I would do in that situation. Like, I think I can reason myself into a lot of things. And so if a studio came to me and said, "Tim, we have this story, we want you to write it," or "Tim, we have this story, we want you to direct it," um, I think that I would get to a point where I would read through the script, or I would hear out their pitch and find a way in. But on the other hand, I've also learned over the years that, like, if I'm not feeling it, if there's nothing that grabs me right away, or there's nothing about the characters, or about the plot that really kind of hooks me in, then I shouldn't do it. I as much as I want to be involved in a lot of things, and I, like, I just should say no. I should walk away, say thank you, but no thank you. Um, if there's anything else, I can do that. Or, like, like, here are the stories that I really want to tell, and being comfortable with saying no. Um, which I think, because this industry is so much built on desperation in a lot of ways, it can be very easy to just say yes to everything, and then find yourself really unhappy when you're in the middle of it, and you're like, well, why did I say yes to this? Like, I don't like this. I don't like what this story's about. Um I don't like the role that I'm in, or whatever. It can just, but at the time, you're so excited. You're like, oh, the possibilities, like, oh, I could do this and I can do that, and this is a great opportunity for me to have my career go forward a bit. And it can be, like, quite intoxicating, when so many jobs are kind of like popping up, that you want to take you want to take all the work that you can get, because there's going to be a dry season, and it happens all the time. There's you're working on something, and then uh you're not working for another 6 months, because there just isn't anything out there. Or you're applying for jobs, and they just don't need you, or something. And so you're kind of like, you're not able to really practice your craft consistently, like, with this job. Like, if you're a director, it's like, okay, you gotta find things to direct. You gotta find things to do. uh or if you're not directing, then focusing on writing, and honing that part of your craft. Because I mean, that's the reason why I leaned into writing a lot, was because I knew that that was something that I didn't need to ask permission from anybody. All I needed to do was just to have a you know a pen and a paper, or Microsoft Word. That's all I really needed. And then I could write, and I could do it very cheaply, and I could still be creative. And so I leaned into that really heavily. And you know, as much as I'm not really doing a like, I'm still writing, but I will, like, when I when I leaned into writing, I leaned into writing. I was like, okay, this is the thing I'm gonna be doing, until I'm able to get back on set. Like, I need to do that, and it worked. I was able to like write a lot of scripts. I wrote a lot of, like, first drafts of scripts, and I'm sure if I went back into them, and they I'm fairly certain that all of them need more drafts. They need lots of edits. They possibly need a rethinking of structure. I'm fairly certain that if I was to reread them, that I would find something in them that I need to change, or to make better, or to throw out altogether and start from page one. Um, but I leaned in. I was like, okay, like, I know that I can write a script, so let's start writing scripts. And I started writing scripts, and it was the most, like, one of the most productive, like times of my life, pre-pandemic. So, and what's funny about the whole thing is that, like, here in the states, um there was nothing else to do, and yet I didn't want to write at all. I was like, we were all in like lockdown, and I was like, the last thing I want to do is write, because what's the point of writing if there's no chance that like any of these things that I write go into production? Like, what really is the point? And looking back now, I think I probably should have had this reality check of like, okay, yeah, the world is scary, but you know, don't don't fall apart. Don't like I lost my job during that time, as everybody, like a lot of people did. And so I realized going through that having a job was kind of the structure I needed to have the structure to write, which is really funny. It's like you would think if I had all the time in the world that I would be writing nonstop. And the opposite was true. I had all the time in the world and I couldn't write a single word. I was so distraught. I was so depressed. I couldn't do it. I didn't see any need. I didn't see how it was benefiting the world at that time. And it's been a long road to get out of that funk, to come back around to like seeing writing as something that's beneficial, at least for myself. Like if I write and nobody else sees it, I still get a benefit because it's a part of me that I need to exercise. I need to be able to put something on paper, to express my thoughts, to journal, to put together a story. Um, if I can do that, then that's a part of me that like I feel good after I have a good writing session. I feel so good. I feel like I've accomplished something. I feel like I feel like I'm on the top of the world when I'm able to do that. And especially if I'm able to do that when I didn't want to. Like there's so many times when I'm sitting around the house and I'm like, I should write something, I should write something. And I'm like, yeah, but there's the dishes. I got to do the dishes. It's like, yeah, but the dishes are always going to be there. You can write now. It's like, yeah, but we got to do the laundry. I'm like, the laundry is always going to be there. You can write right now. And it takes a bit of like pulling myself away of the obligation of just of life, of the tasks that need to happen in order to have a functioning life. It's like you need dishes, you need laundry, you need those things. They need to be done, and I'm the one that does them, and so it needs to happen. um but that's also with me maintaining my life, maintaining a structure that I have control over. And to be honest, that's part of the problem, is that I have I have control over the structure. And so because of that, I'm like, yeah, I can do this anytime. I don't feel like doing it right now. I'll do it later, or I'll do it tomorrow. And that's not good. It's not good because like I know the benefit. I know what it feels like to to have written something and to be excited about what I've written. And you know the like I guess a part of that as well. It's like it's not just about generating pages, about putting your idea on, your initial idea on the page, um, but the whole editing process is such can be such a pain. I don't want to say like I don't enjoy it, but you finish this thing and you're reading through it and you know that there are problems, but you also know, like for me, I know that when I look at a script, I know that if I change something, that means that it's not just changing something in one scene. Like everything that I do in a script affects another part of the script. So I'm like, okay, if I change this here, that means that something else has to happen later, or I need to figure out a way to track that so that at a certain point I've answered the question, or I've done something with that bit of setup, or with that character, thing that I did or that piece of dialogue that somehow brings it back around or like is paid off. Uh, but editing is not like there's a lot to editing that I don't I don't know if a lot of people understand. It's like when you're editing, it's like you're not just editing a part of like something, you're editing the entire thing because whatever you change is going to snowball and it's going to ripple out from that change and it's going to possibly affect what comes before it and what comes after it. And it just it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of focus. It takes a lot of tracking the changes that are happening in the story um, from those initial edits. And I guess that's part of the process, but I'm also very impatient about it. And I'm like, well, I got through a draft. I like I know that there are going to be changes that have to happen later, but at this moment in time, like, it could be like I don't know what changes need to be made too. It's like I could read through it and think it's great, and then I'll give it to one of my colleagues, and I'll say, okay, read this, and they'll read it, and they're like, well, what happened with this, or oh, why did this character do this, or why don't you have the character do something else, and then that just opens up my eyes to like what what the possibilities of the story are. And that's another part of the process is allowing other people to read your stuff to be able to kind of pick it apart. And it's tough because you put yourself in this very vulnerable place where somebody could basically crumble your entire sense of like um of confidence. Like whatever pride you had in um this in this thing that you've made, this baby of a script or of a story, um suddenly gets torn apart, and then you feel so so bad sometimes because you're like, no, but I swear when I wrote this that I paid attention to all of the logic. I paid attention to what the characters were doing and their motivations. I paid attention to all of that, and you're telling me that like it's not working? What the heck? But it's important. It's important because when you're making something, you can have blinders on and you can not see the most obvious of problems. You can possibly not see like how you can simplify your story, how there's a better way of telling the story. There's so many things that other people bring to the table, and that's why like film is such a collaborative it's such a collaborative art because you need so many people looking at the story from their point of view, and from their point of view they bring something that is that is essential to making sure that story is not just a story, but it transcends what it could be, or what it is in the present moment. Um, you need a cinematographer to look at the script and say, okay, well, I get what you're trying to say, or I get what the characters are trying to say. This is how we can. This is the shots that we can pick to show to like. Maybe you don't have to have any of that dialogue because we are going to show it through this one shot, and the audience will get it, and you can cut, you can cut all this all this extra like dialogue. And I know I brought it up in a past stream, but it might have been a stream that you couldn't have heard, or because the audio was so crappy. But I always come back to the story about when Mel Gibson was making Braveheart, and they had this character that when they introduced him, you weren't quite sure where his allegiance was. You weren't quite sure like who he was, if he was for William Wallace or if he was a spy who was there to essentially kill him. and so you weren't sure, like, and like uh, 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 as an audience, you weren't quite sure. You were just you were like, this guy's really off. He seems crazy. Um, okay, William Wallace, be careful because you could end up dead if you turn your back on him. And so they had this long dialogue scene where the whole point was to show his loyalty to William Wallace. And they were about to shoot the scene, and I'm not sure if the production was like short on time, or they were like losing the light or something. But the you know there was a moment where they were sitting around looking at the script. They were like, we have this like 4 or 5 page scene. We don't have time to shoot it. So what are we gonna do? Because we need to have this scene in here. It's important. It's essential. How are we gonna do it? And I'm not sure if it was Mel Gibson or if it was like somebody else. But they were like, why don't we have a scene where William Wallace is hunting and he sees this character run towards him with his sword like up, like as if he's like as if he's attacking him, and the guy throws his sword. It misses, like it it like misses Wallace, and it hits the guy behind him who is actually there to kill him. And that's what ended up in the film, and it's a brilliant scene because it says so much without saying a word. And I know nowadays cinema, there's a lot of talking happening in cinema. Like there was like the whole wave of like mumblecore where it was just nothing but characters sitting around talking. Um, but this is cinema, and cinema is supposed to be a visual art form, and you can say so much without saying a word. And I always come back to that story with like with Braveheart whenever I'm writing. I look at what I have, and coming from a theater background, I love dialogue. I love when two characters are talking, and you can see, like, if a scene is written really well, you can see that there's always this power imbalance happening between two characters. Like, there's always somebody who is the more dominant in a scene, and the way that you can kind of show that is by what they say to each other. And it's like not necessarily what they say, but it's like how they say it, and it's like the subtext underneath what they're saying. So you can do a lot of interesting things with dialogue. Like a character is not who they say they are. It's what they do. And so characters are lying all the time through their dialogue. And that's fascinating. That's interesting. That's fun, because as you're writing this dialogue, you can have this kind of like subtext in your head of like, well, this character says this, but they are really saying this other thing. And so, you know, I love dialogue. I love being able to play that game with dialogue and have two characters like saying a lot to each other, and having a fight, or trying to one up each other with logic about a situation. Like Aaron Sorkin, he writes great dialogue, and a lot of his stuff is just dialogue driven, and but he makes it fascinating. He makes it interesting. He makes it so that what's being said always has a counter, like there's always some kind of argument or counter argument that's happening, like within a scene, and that keeps it interesting. It's not just two people talking, like they're actually talking about something. They're trying to solve a problem. They're trying to there's this kind of urgency around what they're saying. So yeah, I always come back to that, when I'm going through edits, with my script and trying to find ways in which I can cut dialogue, or in ways that I can show a character doing something instead of having them say something. Because like a script with characters just saying stuff is really boring, and it's not interesting at all. And especially if a character is saying exactly what they mean, it's like unless that's part of, unless it's essential for that scene for them to say what they mean, because they're up against some kind of entity that refuses to believe them. Um, but yeah, it's just there's so much relying on dialogue, and it's like, well, this is cinema. Let's try to show more than let's just show characters doing stuff instead of having them talk about stuff, or the like, or having them talk about other characters, which can still be interesting. You can still have characters, talk about other characters, and that in a way kind of sets up the perception of this character, and then you get to see the reality. You can still play with that whole dynamic too. But yeah, all right. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you're watching this live, or if you're watching this on a replay, I hope I gave you some things to think about, some like tidbits of like insider like Hollywood stuff, or like I love talking about Hollywood. I love talking about movies, because like I grew up loving the art form. I would spend hours in my room watching movies, because I loved this art form so much. And so I can't help but talk about it. So um but yeah, I wanted to keep the stream short today, because I got some things to do. But I'm here every Tuesday, and like I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm trying to make it look better. I'm trying to make it sound better, so that it's more entertaining for you guys to tune in and watch, and not be like, oh no, it looks terrible. Oh no, it sounds like crap. Oh, I can't watch this thing. Because it for real, there's so much out there to watch that, like, if something doesn't sound good or look good, people are gonna tune out. There's so much more out there. And I appreciate you guys for for showing up, and for for watching. So if you don't know, I should have did this at the beginning of the live stream. This would have been great. So I'm Tim. I have a podcast called a Tentative Title with Tim, and I release episodes every Monday. And now I do the live streams every Tuesday. And so the live streams are more kind of like free form. I kind of talk about whatever's on my mind. Like sometimes I just talk about stuff, like the culture around film, and what's out there. Whatever stories have uh, popped up. Um, but my podcast is more, I focus more on a specific like topic, and those are a bit shorter. They usually run about like 20 to like 30 minutes, and so they're like little bite size like podcast like uh, episodes. So yeah, you can find them wherever you get your podcasts. Like, share, subscribe, that whole gamut of things. The same thing with the YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. But yeah. So uh I got things to do, but once again, thank you for being here. And I will I will be here next Tuesday, and we can talk more about what's going on in the industry and whatever is pressing on that day. So, all right, guys, thank you.